Hey friends, my name is Michelle Dickerson, also known as Michelle with all the hearts because there are a lot of hearts around this place. My question for you today is, have you ever felt just bone dry and that you are just grasping for air to breathe? We have a pool, and in the pool they have skimmers, little skimmer baskets. That's the round top that you'll see alongside pools where the water, pulls in the little side, has like sometimes a little flappy door on the inside of the pool, and it has a basket inside there, and it's called your skimmer and your skimmer basket. And this is what pulls the water from the pool down into the skimmer. It goes through all the pool thingies and cleans itself and comes back out into your pool. It's part of the cycle. So the cap part you can take off, and we take the basket out to clean it and get the stuff out of there. Coming back from my walk today, and I could hear this gurgling, this deep gurgling, sucking air sound. So I thought, it's the pool. It's needing some water in there. And so it's sucking down the water, but it's also sucking air because there's no water hitting the top level to come into the skimmer basket at the pool water level that needs to stay at a certain level so that it's not sucking air. Because what happens is, and I'm not a pool guru, but when it pulls in the air down into the skimmer basket, that's running through all the pipey things and all the baskets and gadgets and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes with the pool equipment. And then it comes back out into the pool, and it's like spitting out, just like hacking water, because it's half water, half air, and it's just spitting out the water. And then the water will fill into that, and it's just not enough to sustain it, and it sucks dry again, and it starts pulling more air down, pushes the air out, and then it's just choking out, spitting out that water. This is going to continue to get worse, because if water does not eventually get put back into the pool and filled up, the water levels are going to continue to evaporate, which means more and more percentage of air is going to be in there until it's sucking down the air. That can burn out your pool pumps. That can mess up all the stuff happening behind the scenes that makes the whole thing work. So I took off running. I grabbed both of my hoses from both sides of the yard, put one down direct into the skimmer basket, and then I put the other one into the deep end. A lot of information for pool information, but there's a story here, a lesson learned and reminded of. So stick with me. So I got both of the hoses in there, and I'm filling up the pool. In the meantime, even though I've done all that I could, I'm waiting and I'm looking down at the skimmer basket, knowing that it's got what it needs to keep filling back up. With the water has gone down. Now we're hearing the symptoms, the white flags of like, hey, you need to come put some water out here. I'm doing all I can do. I have two hoses of water on full blast. I'm sitting on top of basically the skimmer basket watching it. I see some leaves in there. I stick my hand in there, pull out the leaves, a little twig, a little flowers in there, pulling all that stuff out so that there are no hindrances, no blocks to the basket. The water can just gush in there. The best that I can do on my part to fill it back up. Eventually it comes back up, but because it's in depletion mode, it's going to fill back up. And if you've ever sat there and watched it, the first few times it happened to us, we thought, are we doing it wrong? What are we doing? It goes up, but then because it's in such a need of demand, it sucks it right back out as soon as you turn off the hose, and you're like, oh, it's good. And then shoo, it just sucks it out and it's dry again. You got to get the hose back in there and keep going, keep going. And it's this cycle of filling back up, and then we'll go over to the pumps, let some of that air, release that pressure, let that air out, come back over the skimmer, and still keep the water pouring in, pouring in, pouring in, has to now become greater than the air. And then we're doing our part in the back part to release that pressure, air pressure, back on the pump, the filter. So we're letting the air out back there in little spits of water, and it's kind of like burping it, if you will. And so Eventually, as it sucks dry, it fills back up. It'll suck dry a little bit less and then fill back up, and a little bit less and then fill back up. And then eventually you get to the place where you've got those inches of water that's enough depth and covering for it to no longer need the direct hose in there to resuscitate it, basically. And now it's not sucking the air down. There's no risk of sucking the air down. So now we can turn off the hose and now we can breathe because everything is now all back to normal. It's like a rescue mission. The pool has been resuscitated. We are good to go. There is no more need for the water. Sit back and breathe. And as I was sitting there, I thought, is this not exactly what we do? We get out of the habit of the daily things, the daily feelings, the daily check-ins. And before we know it, we start feeling this gurgling, this little bit of a choking or stumbling, sucking in more air than we are on that water. And we start to find ourselves in this anxious mode of dehydration. But if we don't catch it, and we're just like, oh, I'm too tired to, or I don't want to, or it's too hot, or whatever it might be, figuratively and literally, it's going to suck completely dry because you don't take the time to go out there and give it what it needs, which is the water is the only answer that it needs. It needs water. If I don't put the water, if I don't take in the daily thing that I know that I need to be sustaining my soul and my spirit and my mind, body, mind, and spirit, the things that we know that we need to be doing every day, we're going to start gurgling and we're going to start drawing in that air. It's going to make it harder to have a good flow about us. Then, if we don't, we are going to completely empty out and we can burn out our motors. That's burnout. I know I'm not the only one that has done this because this used to be the way I would run my life, basically run down to the fumes. We talk about just, your tank runs dry and you're running on fumes. Well, you can't give what you don't have to give. But here we are, some of us are pretty stubborn and strong-willed, and in the name of servant leadership, right, in our homes or in our ministries, whatever, that we just keep pushing, we keep pushing, we keep pushing. And that's that gurgling. I'll spit out and do what I can with what I have, but it's a mixture of exhaustion and fatigue, and yet still water is, the blessing is still there and the abilities are still there, but now we're gasping because it's more air, and we need to have that water in us, within us, to flow efficiently and more purely. So if we don't fill back up because we're staying in a depleted mode, so even in a depleted mode, it's not enough to just, here's a little cup of water, walk away. Cup of water, it's not enough. When you're already in a depleted mode, you're going to need more of a consistent flow. And might I even say 2 times, you're going to need to abundantly saturate in order to catch back up. It's a lot of work. And it's also really frustrating to sit there in that weight and see that you're doing what you can do. But now, because you've been so depleted for so long, it's going to take longer to replenish. So the burnout, if we can stop the burnout before it crashes and burns, we are better off the sooner in the process, right? So if we back the bus up so that our motor doesn't fry, we don't completely shut down. If we back that up, it would have been easier to manage all this chaos and all this sidetrack now that we're having crisis situation that we're dealing with, if in the beginning we would have just paid attention to the daily needs, check our water levels to make sure that we're being filled as we need. So in our lives, for those of you who are those push through the fumes, just get it done no matter what, and you're ignoring the gurgling effect, the fumes, the air pockets, you're feeling them in just in your soul, in your breath. You can feel when you feel like I'm hitting a proverbial wall or I'm feeling depleted. You might be saying things like, I am so overwhelmed. I am so exhausted. I cannot think straight. I need a vacation. These are all those little warning flags that I think our heart is trying to tell us, okay, so pay attention. What do we need to be doing so that we can get out of this? What is our rescue water? So my encouragement for you today, as silly as it sounds, is to rehydrate your body, your mind, and your soul, to allow the filling back in of the things that you need. And that is on the daily. Daily, the Lord is asking us to seek Him first. So for me, what that looks like in a practical sense for me is that when I get up in the morning, I am seeking Him first in gratitude and gratefulness, thanksgiving for life, for breath, His presence, His guidance for that day. I'm giving myself boundaries and knowing what I need to do today, what can wait today, what are my top priorities. And then when things come along throughout the day that might make me either squirrel or tempt me to want to do something else or avoid something, the self-discipline and grace and discernment to see, are those pulling me away, or are these divine appointments that is now that space for grace where I need to actually set aside what I thought I needed to do for right now, and this is what something God has put in my path for right now, and that is now my important priority, or this is now my assignment for right now. Because in the morning we've prayed and asked Him to show us today where He leads, what He has for us, and to help us make room in our hearts, in our lives, in our day for the things that He has for us. And we may not see that on our schedule, but it happens. And so do we have that grace, space for grace, to allow those things in? But it's praying and that being that aware, discerning, is this for me right now? Is this trying to tempt me, pull me away? So only you can answer that, but definitely seeking Him first in those things. So setting up the boundaries of your time, your energy. For me, it's more about energy than it is about time, because I am blessed. I'm thankful to be able to spend pretty much 99% of my day at home, and I work and serve and bless from home. So it's very easy for me to just take the whole day off and just push everything out, avoiding. Or it's also very easy for me to spend my entire day. I have to do so many. I could look around right now and see so many drawers I could clean out, so much laundry, still unpacking suitcases from this last week. There's just so much that could be done, can be done. But instead I say, okay, Lord, what do you have for me today? Today, here's some of the things that I want to get done that I have on my task list to do. But I'm listening to Him also, and I'm being flexible that if He has something for me, am I aware? Am I discerning enough to know that this is what I actually need to do? So praying and having those boundaries in place for the energy of knowing what you have on your day, and then also the time for what do you actually have time for, and then allowing God to be the ultimate speaker over that. And then the other one is just grace. I think this is a running theme that I think us recovering perfectionists, need to remember grace, that it may not always feel full. We may not always have the energy to consider it's not even the energy, it's the focus of the little bitty things that really do matter in our day with our body and our mind and our spirit. Those little things that feed us and light us up and serve us, things where we are actually in gratitude and worship. Even taking care of your home. We're worshiping and doing the laundry. We're worshiping and doing mopping the floors or cleaning the toilets that we don't want to clean, but we're still going to be in the acts of worship. So that is how we fill back up as we serve. So as you go about your day, my challenge for you is to consider, how can I allow this to fill me? What things, whether it's a mindset shift or practical things in your day, do you need to be doing so that you can continuously be filled with His love, His energy, and His purpose and His focus, so that you can stay hydrated in the living water? There is nothing more satisfying than the living water. So rehydrate yourself today, and I look forward to sharing more heart encouragements for you. I have some more writings over on the blog. You can go over to wherefaithis's.com and see some other practical tips. I'm a very practical thinker, and I love sharing ways that we can encourage each other and just keep cheering for each other to keep going and to not fall into that depletion and ultimately that burnout where we crash and burn, and the recovery time is so much harder, and it doesn't need to get that bad. So find your sisters in your life, find what is your passions and your boundaries and your schedule, and start your day in worship and surrender all of you, all of your heart and soul to Him, because He's got you, and He's so gracious to know exactly what we need because He's already been where you're going. So don't forget that you are never alone. All right. Mwah. Have the most blessed day.